Hello, and welcome to the third in this mini-series on communications. In this session, we're going to look at inspiring the technically gifted to communicate more effectively. One of the biggest challenges facing high-tech companies is effectively communicating with the non-techie world. Communications boosting speaker and trainer Michael Dodd is on a mission to help them crack this problem. He's had speaking slots on 6 continents and is embarking now on the biggest challenge yet. Michael says that cutting-edge companies in the Silicon Valley in California, the Silicon Glen in Scotland, and the Silicon Roundabout in London all urgently need what he's calling Silicon Standard Communication. And he's with us now, Michael. So welcome. Now, tell us a bit more about this the kind of challenges that techie companies have, and what is this Silicon Valley, Silicon Standard Communication?
Yeah, well, techie people in techie companies are lovely. There's even some of them in this Disruptive TV studio now as we speak. Right. The thing about them collectively, and obviously they all have their own individual personalities, but they tend to be very clever and can talk to each other in a language of technical jargon, and they often fall into the trap of thinking that everybody else in the non-techie world completely understands what they say. And the bad news for them is that they don't. And so what I'm trying to do, the challenge I've set myself, is to solve this problem so that the fantastic products and services that these techie companies have, that they can actually talk about them in the same high standard. So that's where I got the term Silicon Standard Communication, because you've got these fantastic Silicon Valley and Silicon Glen and Silicon Roundabout products.
Very high standard.
Exactly. Yeah. But the communications around them, if you've ever heard a PowerPoint presentation, for example, from someone trying to explain some of them to an audience which is half asleep, they dim the lights, and they have all this jargon and lots of amazingly complicated diagrams which they might understand but no one else does, and they just don't connect with the audience.
And often taken from a template for this particular product or for this.
Well, one of the real challenges is with technical companies, and I do love them, and I love working with them, but often they have like a set of PowerPoint slides which are issued fairly high up in the company, and everybody thinks, oh, I've got to do a presentation internally or externally, I must use all the slides. I have to use all the slides. I'll be in trouble if I don't.
Of course.
And what I try and do, and I'm a bit disruptive myself here, but for their own good and for the good of their audiences, is to actually make sure that they put their own stamp on it. So if you've got a pack of slides, there may be some of them are quite good. Some of them have graphic design ones, and they've got products all done in the company colors, etc. That's just fine. But often it's good if you can get people to put their own slides in as well, and more importantly, tell their own story about the product, because typically you want to know, well, what is this product going to do for me? And it's all very well to explain that to another technical person, but the mums and dads and kids out there who may well benefit from the product, they need to know too, and they're probably not as techie as the people talking about it, and that's what the techies need to understand. I call them, classify them as task-orientated introverts. So task-orientated, they're very good at solving problems, they're very good at analyzing things, so they're typically brainy people, but they're often introverted in that they're often more at home, at the back of a TV set or inside a mobile phone than they are face to face with people. But what they need to do is step out, have the confidence to step out, to connect with ordinary folk in a way that's really good for their company, and paints pictures in the minds of those that they're talking to, so that everyone understands their world.
So I guess this is what, for example, Steve Jobs was so good at, being able to communicate his ideas and products.
Steve Jobs was an absolute master. I still show people, and it's easily available on the internet, the fantastic talk he gave in Silicon Valley to launch the Apple iPhone. And has that caught on? I happen to have one in my pocket. You've probably got one too. And he sold it in a way that was totally untechy.
Yeah.
you know, he was able to talk about the virtues of it in a way that connected with everyone. And you can go online and look at it, and it's really worth doing. And we need more Steve Jobs kind of people. But what is fantastic about these people, the techies who are task-oriented introverts, is that they like formulas. So you give them the formula for making a good speech or giving a great answer to a tough question, and they're good at that. And when they actually realize, right, you know, you can actually use words like you use tools of trade, then ta-da, the light bulb can come on, and they can be very good at communicating. They often don't think they are, and their starting base is often low, but they're good at learning. And it is a learnable skill, how to give a great speech, how to give a great presentation, even using PowerPoint slides, or how to give a great answer to a tough question.
Right. And the more that you start from real life examples, the more that you start with your own stories or the stories of your company or the stories in real life, shall we say, the better it is, right?
Yeah, well, that's why getting the deck of PowerPoints sent by the boss or by the marketing team isn't always the best thing to use religiously in every way when you're trying to connect with an audience, particularly an audience outside the company, which wants to know basically how it works. If you tell them a story about how product XYZ actually solved a problem for you or solved a problem for your friend, and you paint that picture in their minds about how it can actually work, then you know you're a long way there to selling the product, and you know, in the way that Steve Jobs was able to do.
And you're getting towards silicon standard communication for your silicon standard product and services.
Exactly. It takes a little while often. You need to work with these people a bit, but you know, because they're into their topics, they typically have a natural enthusiasm, and if you can bottle that and get them to talk in ordinary, everyday terms to ordinary people about it, then you're on a winner.
Thank you so much, Michael. That really gets to the very heart of this question of how to communicate well from the techie point of view, the high techie point of view, to the non-techie audience and customers. So that's it for this session, and I thank Michael especially for guiding us through that. And look out for the rest of this mini-series on communications on Disruptive Live.